In 1963, inside a highly classified, sealed government bunker, a secret meeting took place that officially never happened. No cameras, no press, no paper trails. Just a room full of military generals going completely silent as the man at the front drops a single, terrifying bombshell. He whispered, "We've already been there, not preparing to go, already there." And what NASA actually found out there was buried so deep, the American public was never supposed to survive the truth. We all grew up believing the official story of NASA. The iconic moonwalks, the American flags, and the historic launches broadcasted to millions. Most of it was real, but behind this public triumph ran a parallel world of classified infrastructure. Missions with no names, ghost launch pads, and military astronauts sworn to absolute silence. Programs buried so deep that even senior space officials were locked out of the loop. If the dark secrets of the cosmos and government cover-ups keep you awake at night, you are in the right place. Today, we pull back the curtain on NASA's most forbidden operations and the terrifying truths they tried to bury forever. It started in the early 1960s, during the peak of the Cold War, when fear shaped global policy. While NASA was selling the public a beautiful story of peaceful space exploration, the United States military was secretly running a parallel space program. A program so classified that even the astronauts weren't told their true objectives until launch. It was called the Manned Orbiting Laboratory, or MOL. Officially, it was just a harmless research station to study human tolerance in space. That was the cover story. In reality, MOL was an orbiting spy fortress, a crude military surveillance platform positioned directly above Soviet nuclear facilities, snapping high-resolution intelligence photographs that no satellite could capture. 14 military astronauts were secretly drafted, not for science, but for high-stakes espionage. They trained in facilities that officially did not exist, and they were told very quietly that if anything went wrong up there, the government would not be sending a rescue mission. Survival was secondary to absolute secrecy. MOL was canceled in 1969, officially due to budget cuts. Officially. But the real reason, buried in declassified NSA documents released decades later, was something far more unsettling. The technology had worked, the surveillance had worked. In fact, it had worked so well that the intelligence being gathered was considered too sensitive for a crude platform. Because humans talk, humans have conscience, humans break under pressure, humans remember what they saw. So the program was quietly handed off to automated reconnaissance satellites. Systems so advanced, the public wouldn't learn they existed for another 30 years. And the 14 astronauts, quietly absorbed into other programs, told to forget what they knew. Some transferred directly into the early shuttle program, with no explanation given to mission planners about their previous classified service record. But then, something unexpected happened. When a small team of independent researchers began cross-referencing declassified CIA documents with NASA personnel files in the late 1990s, they found gaps, not just gaps in records, gaps in time. There were launch windows, confirmed by radar tracking logs from international observatories. that corresponded to no publicly announced mission, no shuttle, no satellite deployment, no ISS resupply, launches that, by every technical indicator, had happened. That NASA, to this day, has never officially acknowledged. The public never heard the full story, and hidden inside those documents was something that changed the entire framework of what we thought NASA was. Here's what the documents suggested. Between 1990 and 2004, there is credible evidence, sourced from declassified Air Force Space Command communications and corroborated by independent tracking data, of at least 3 unannounced orbital missions launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base using modified Titan IV rockets. No crew manifests, no public mission profiles, no press releases, but the orbital trajectories, tracked and recorded by amateur astronomers and foreign space agencies who published their data before anyone thought to suppress it, told a story. These weren't weather satellites. These weren't communication platforms. The inclination angles, the altitude adjustments, the loitering patterns above specific geographic coordinates, they matched the behavioral profile of one thing only: active reconnaissance, deep surveillance, in real time, over targets that, at the time, the United States government was publicly claiming to have no intelligence operations against. And this was only the beginning. Because buried deeper in the released records was something almost nobody has written about. A single internal memo dated 1997 from a senior NASA administrator to the Deputy Director of the National Reconnaissance Office. It references, without explanation, a mission designation that appears nowhere else in any known NASA archive. Project Cardinal. No mission file, no crew list, no technical specifications, just a reference and 4 words written beside it that nobody has ever been able to fully explain. Anomaly confirmed. Quarantine maintained. Anomaly confirmed. Think about the weight of those 2 words coming from inside a classified government space program memo in 1997. Not anomaly investigated, not anomaly resolved. Confirmed. As if whatever was found, whatever was encountered, was real, was documented, and was being deliberately kept from public record. And honestly, if this thought gives you chills, subscribe, because the next story we're covering goes even deeper into what governments have quietly documented and quietly buried. The question that no researcher has been able to answer is not whether something was found. The question is, why was the decision made that we weren't supposed to know? Who made that call? And more importantly, does the quarantine still stand? NASA has always been more than an agency. It's been a mirror, a reflection of everything humanity believes about itself. Our curiosity, our courage, our desperate need to reach beyond what we know and touch something larger than our own brief, fragile existence. And most of what we've been told about that journey is true. But truth, real truth, rarely arrives in a clean, well-lit press conference. It arrives in fragments, in memos with strange designations, in the silence between officially confirmed launches, in the faces of 14 astronauts who trained for a mission the world would never know about, and who carried that silence for the rest of their lives. There's something almost unbearably human about that, to have seen something, to have been somewhere, and to come back to a world that will never be allowed to ask you what it was like. We are not a species that handles uncertainty well. We build stories, we build myths, we build whole cosmologies around the spaces where answers should be. But maybe the most honest thing we can say about what NASA has done in the dark is that some of it was done to protect us, and some of it was done to protect something else entirely. The stars don't care what we keep secret. They've been watching us for 4 billion years, and they are not finished watching yet. But this mystery goes even deeper, and in the next documentary, we uncover the part that even the insiders refused to write down.